Oh, good afternoon, everyone. This is Skeeter Harris with Mac Village Media. With me today, as my pleasure, is Kurt Schmucker. He is the Senior Product Manager for Parallels. Good afternoon, Kurt.
Afternoon, Skeeter.
Really appreciate you taking time today to talk with me. This is, again, one of our continued series with Parallels, and what we're doing is focusing on the new Parallels Access 2.0. We're really excited about it. We got some great news to tell you in terms of new feature set, something big, and actually a couple neat features also that build on the iOS platform. So, Kurt, would you like to jump in?
I will. So I'm going to share my screen. You should be seeing a very small PowerPoint deck.
Yep, I see it, Kurt.
Very good. So let me introduce. So we've just recently released a new version of Parallels Access. Parallels Access, you may remember, is an application for a mobile device that gives you the ability to access your Mac or Windows applications from that mobile device. It's really cool. We shipped it at 1.0 about 9 months ago or so, and we just released a 2.0 version. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about it, then we'll spend the rest of our time doing demos and answering questions. So the big news for the 2.0 release of Parallels Access is we've significantly widened the mobile devices it runs on. 1.0 ran only on the iPad. 2.0 runs on the iPad, of course, and the iPhone, but also Android tablets and Android phones. We're trying to really dramatically broaden the reach of Parallels Access so it's useful by even a wider variety of people. Of course, that's not the only feature in Parallels Access. I will show, and Skeeter will show in demo, other features too. But the big news is the Android support. We've also added features related to various user requests for features or functionality in Parallels Access. For example, we've added a file browser because using the Mac Finder or the Windows Explorer over a small screen tablet with your finger is kind of problematic. We also have added support for changing the resolution of your mobile device. You'll see that in my demo, and this, again, is because of user requests related to how Parallels Access is used. We've added even more support for the microphone on an iPad or iPhone, and then probably the biggest request from users was, hey, to use Parallels Access, I have to leave my machine on all the time, not even sleeping. So we've added a feature that's called Wake on LAN, and we'll talk about that later. For those of you also who are consumers buying your own version of Parallels Access, your own subscription, we've got new pricing and new licensing. And then for those of you who are in enterprises, we've added a new feature for Parallels Access for business accounts. Before I continue, I want to apologize because you're probably going to hear some strange noises behind me like you are right now. And that's because construction is happening in the building I'm in right now. And so it's a little bit noisy. If my voice is drowned out by construction noise, Skeeter will tell me, and I will repeat what I said, and we'll go from there. So I'm a big advocate of the fact that don't talk about something, show it when you can show it. So I want to move now to doing some demos of the new version of Parallels Access. We have the technology on the Mac and in Google Hangout to do live demos of the iPad and the iPhone. We don't have that technology for Android devices. So Skeeter has very generously prepared a small movie to show you the features of Parallels Access 2.0 on an Android tablet. Skeeter, take it away.
All right, Kurt. Hey, thank you for that. And just by the way, while I'm getting myself ready for the video here, I want to let you know that you sound great. I don't hear a lot of construction noise or actually any background noise. So we're good to go there. Kurt, before I start the video, can you see the YouTube screen now?
Yep, I can.
Okay, wonderful. Also, for those of you that are taking time to watch today, we really are certainly thrilled that you're taking time out of your schedules. We do have the ability of answering your questions, sort of as you raise them. So in the chat window there, please make sure you do enter your questions, and we'll get to them as we go here. But what I'm going to do is hit play on this sort of silent video that will walk through the features, and we can talk through it. I'll explain what you're seeing as we go here. So So this is a Samsung Galaxy 5S. What we do now is we actually can browse through our computers that we've configured with a small agent that runs on whether on your PC or Mac. And once I find the computer that I want to connect to, I tap on that with my finger or the name, and I get the application launcher. Within the application launcher, then I can simply tap on my application, and instantly I'm brought into that application, actually running remotely on that, in this case, a Mac Pro. So here you can see that I've got, in this case, Word running. I double tap to select a word or a paragraph. Triple tap, I can then use something called Precise Lock and Go to actually select a color and change the font. The same control works to allow me to actually select a control within, in this case, a picture, and by clicking and dragging, and then that lock and hold, I can actually shrink down an object size. Clicking on the rocket takes me back to my application launcher again. Again, I can easily pick a program that I want to launch, and voila, here I am in Microsoft Excel. Additionally, if I don't have a program that I want to that I see, I can click on the secondary menu of the Android application, so the operating system, scroll through my applications that are on that computer, or search for them by typing in their name, and Parallels Access will automatically then search for and find applications. In this case, I'm going to select PowerPoint for Windows. There it's added to the screen. Tap on it, and now you can see I've got Parallels Access running. I also have the ability of switching quickly not only between different applications, but I can also switch between different windows within the same application, as you can see my finger doing there on this video. Again, going back to Application Launcher. And of course, I'm going to rotate now back to portrait mode. Unique feature to the Android platform of Parallels Access is the ability to actually create shortcuts of your commonly or most favorite applications on your remote computer. So now, whether I'm connected or not, I just tap on that Microsoft Word application shortcut, and I'm brought immediately into that application within Parallels Access. And that's pretty cool. So, Kurt, back to you.
Thank you, Skeeter. So I'm going to share my screen, if I can get the screen. There we are.
Don't see it
okay,
yet.
got it. You should now be seeing my iPad.
Yes, I do, sir.
So let's talk more about Parallels Access both on the iPad and the Android. Skeeter showed you a wide variety of features, and that's great. Most of those features, almost all of those features, are available on all the mobile platforms that we support. So for example, here I am on my iPad. I can tap on the Parallels Access icon, launch Parallels Access, and what it's going to show me are the machines I've configured where I want to connect to. In Parallels Access, you get control of and the ability to use applications on any machine you either own or have access to. It's not a shared resource, it's your machine, at your desk, at your home, things like this. So when you click on it, as Skeeter mentioned, I can click on this on my Mac at home, and what I'll see are the applications I've already decided I want to use when I'm on that machine. I can easily add or subtract ones from this list very, very easily. And so the beauty of Parallels Access is I'm using the full power of my big iMac at home right now to run Word or Photoshop or Dreamweaver or whatever, or Xcode. I'm not running with the resources of the iPad. So for example, when I can start Word here now by tapping on Mac Word, by tapping on the Word icon, and here I have a document. Now, in Parallels Access, we take and bring the gestures and other controls associated with the tablet you have in your hand and make them work with the remote application. So for example, you can't see my hand, but I'm going to put my finger in the middle of the screen and move it up, and the document scrolls. Very, very natural to an iPad user. I can pinch or spread my fingers to change the zoom factor on the document. This is an unmodified copy of Word for Macintosh. And so this gesture use from the iPad into applications on remote devices happens whether those applications are commercially available apps like Word, they're apps that are internal to my company that are proprietary, or they're even apps I wrote yesterday. So that is a generic mechanism that makes this illusion of superimposing the iPad user interface on top of an unmodified application. As Skeeter mentioned, when I tap on a word, I will select it. And you'll notice it looks a little different than it looked on the Android device. And that's because iPad shows selections in different ways than the Android. I can grab hold of what are called the nibs here and change that selection like this. And I get that contextual menu bar right in the middle of the screen, right above the selection. That's the iOS way of doing things. On the Android, it looks different. It looks correct to an Android user. It doesn't have selection nibs. It has a little sort of widgets, and the menus for cut, copy, and paste are not right above the selection. They're at the top of the tablet, which is the way it's supposed to work for an Android user. I'll tell you a funny story. And there's one of my friends who was a beta tester for Parallels Access, who was using it on an Android tablet, and when he made a selection and he saw these things appear, he thought it was a bug. He found it as a bug because it didn't look right to him because he was an iPad user most of the time. So that's kind of funny, but it's supposed to work that way. Now, I can also, you can see the ribbon of Mac Word. Some of those controls are a little on the small side. And as you saw in the Android movie, what I can do is tap down. I get a magnifying glass, which I can then move around and get it to do things in the menu bar, or in the ribbon, I should say, and change the color like this. You couldn't reliably select these color swatches with your finger. They're just too small. But I can do so here like this because of that magnifying glass. Now, those of you who are iPad users are going to go, well, yeah, that's kind of nice. Magnifying glass, pretty common on the iPad. And the answer is it is, but this is not the iPad magnifying glass. This is the Parallels Access magnifying glass. It works on an iPad. It works on an Android device. It's working on an application that's not even running on the iPad. It's an application running on my iMac at home. And so the beauty of this is we've made, with our technology innovations, we've made this seem so natural, it just looks right to the user who's using it on an iPad or an Android tablet.
Hey, Kurt, just to interject there, I think it's a very important point you bring out, which is the fact that whether you're on an Android device, like I am at particular times, or even an iPhone or an iPad, that user experience is first off, it's consistent across both platforms, with the exception, of course, of the menus there, but it's just very intuitive. So anybody that knows how to use an app on either of those devices can easily use that same mechanism then to control their PC or Mac apps.
And that was exactly our goal. That we wanted it to feel natural to the person who has a particular mobile device in their hand right now and is using it. They've picked that mobile device, therefore we ought to make their applications look like they run on that mobile device. And that was the goal of Parallels Access. Now, on to new features. So what we did in Parallels Access 1.0 was we set the resolution, in effect, of the screen to make interaction like this on the iPad feel natural. Come on. There we are.
There you go.
And that's great. But we had users say, that's great, and I appreciate that, but I need to see more of my document sometimes. Or we had users say, I have applications that won't even launch unless they have more resolution. So we took that into account and made a feature in Parallels Access 2.0 that allows you to change the resolution. I'm going to show you that now by hitting the gear control here. And you see a desktop resolution control. And right now it's set to the default, which is best for iPad because I'm on an iPad. And if I wanted to see more of my document, I would change it to more space. And when I do that, you'll see that I now see a little bit more of my document. That's great.
Yep.
But you know, I need even more. I want to see a whole bunch of this. So I can say, hey, that's great, but I'd like to see as much as possible of that document.
Hey, Kurt, you know, why you bring that up? I mean, one of the cool things is that there are apps that certainly I know I run that unless you can do that, you can't. They won't even run properly.
Exactly right, and that's exactly the comments we had from users with Parallels Access 1.0, and we wanted to address those, and we did it in exactly the way you're seeing here. Now I have the full resolution of my 27-inch monitor showing on my iPad. For some tasks or for some apps, you'll want this. We still set the default as best for iPad or best for Android, depending on what device you're on, because we think most people will want that approach. And
Well, Kurt, what's cool about that is it's dynamic. You don't have to, you know, exit the program and, you know, start over or disconnect from the, the remote computer and reconnect. It just does it on the fly.
you are correct. And it didn't work that time. I don't know why, but normally it does. So this feature was added specifically because users had this request to be able to change things like this on the fly. So that's great. This is a feature on both Android and on iOS. In the movie, the video Skeeter showed, he showed you a feature that was only available on Android. So to balance things out, I've got to show you a feature only available on iOS. So I'm going to hit the new button we see here below the rocket ship, which looks like files and folders, and that's going to show me my file browser. Let me go to a different machine because it'll be a little bit easier for you to see. I'll connect to another machine here in the office. And I also have a files item at the top there. You see files in red. I can tap on that. And now what I get is a file browser specifically designed to be more touch-friendly than the Finder would be or the Windows Explorer would be from a tablet. So here I can select documents, for example. I can open up a particular folder by tapping on it. I can select some files, like this one and this one, and now I see a bunch of commands at the side. For example, I can copy those. I can go to some other area and paste those documents in, like that.
Or you can move them too.
Or move them. I can do anything I want. Let me be more precise. I have many of the operations and functionality of the Mac Finder available to me now in a user-friendly way. Today, this feature is available for remote Macs or remote Windows devices from an iOS device, the iPad or the iPhone. We're looking forward to bringing this feature to Android Parallels Access in the future.
Hey, Kurt, if you go back to your selection of different folder types and what have you quickly, I've got a funny story to tell you. And as you know, I'm actually traveling this week, but I was actually able to update some of my Facebook pages using Parallels Access in the file browser, and actually being able to go into my directory structure. And in this case, I actually had the content up on Dropbox, and actually go to Dropbox from Parallels Access on my Mac back in Rochester, select those JPEGs, and actually upload them right into a Facebook page. It was really awesome.
I've had the same reaction, and I can tell you, as a Parallels Access 1.0 user, doing that in the Finder was kind of tricky.
It was doable, but it was hard. Yeah.
It was doable, but it was hard. Exactly right. I've done it. It wasn't easy. It wasn't super pleasant. But the new one with this file browser for iOS devices is very pleasant, and we're real pleased about that. Now, to close circle, the goal for us is always to have as much feature parity between the iOS version of Parallels Access and the Android version of Parallels Access. However, that's not always possible, either because we just haven't gotten time to get to that feature on the other platform, or, and probably more common, is that certain features are just easier to implement or even more possible to implement in one operating system than in the other. Take the case of the shortcuts that Skeeter showed you on the Android device. The iPhone and the iPad don't have the notion of aliases or shortcuts, and so that's not something we could easily do on those devices. The Parallels Access development team went to the Worldwide Developers Conference Apple ran a few weeks ago, and that was at the top of their list, to have conversations with Apple about how this might be done to bring this feature to iPad users and iPhone users, because it was already available for Android users. And we're working with them now, and we're really pleased to have such cooperation with Apple that we can help them bring these really innovative features to their platform.
Well, Kurt. That's good. That's good news. I mean, I know I, for one, would love to be able to have shortcuts on my iOS screen to do exactly what the Android version of Parallels Access does. So that'd be great news if that were to come to happen.
So stay tuned. As soon as it is, I will definitely talk to you about it. I have a couple more things to show, and these are both features that are on both platforms. I'm actually going to disconnect from this host, and go ahead.
Kurt, while you're doing that, just for those of you that are online watching, you can also do this over a cellular connection. So whether it's your iPhone or an Android phone or an LTE tablet, Parallels Access will work over slow internet connections, which is also great.
So I made the reference earlier to probably the biggest request from our user base, which was, here are all the computers I have configured to be able to control with Parallels Access. And you notice that some of them are offline. So if they're offline, you see a little alarm clock icon there. When you log into Parallels Access, we ping each of your remote computers. If we get an answer back, then we know that machine is alive and is ready to accept a Parallels Access connection request. If we get no answer back, we don't know much. It could be asleep. It could be turned off. You could have unplugged the internet connection to that machine. It could be turned off, unplugged in your drawer. It's a spare machine like that. So we don't really know too much. If you tap that alarm clock, we will do everything we can to wake up that machine. Is it successful 100% of the time? No. But it is successful. And if it does wake up, then you're great. You can access the applications or the data on that device. If it's not, we still don't know too much. We don't know why. It could be turned off, in which case there's nothing we can do. It could have Parallels Access turned off. Again, nothing we can do about that. But we did publish a KB article on the Parallels website that says, here are things you can do in your machine. Here are things you can ask your IT team, whether that's you for your home network or your work network, and say, if you make these kind of setting changes, the probability of us being able to wake up that machine is much greater. And so hopefully this will help people get over this #1 issue they had of leaving their machine on all the time. Steve, unless you had a question or a comment?
Yeah, the only comment I was going to jump in on that, Kurt, was that certainly both on the Mac and the PC, usually under your network settings, or on the Mac, of course, it's system preferences, but there usually are options that you have to enable. It's typically called wake on LAN, I believe, and by enabling those, it causes the network adapter to sense for wake up pings, which is basically what we're trying to do here when you click on that alarm clock.
You're exactly correct. That's one of the many things a user can do to increase the probability that waking up a sleeping computer is possible for them from Parallels Access. And of course, we're continuing to work with manufacturers for both Macs and Windows devices to improve this as we go forward, and we're looking forward to this being a really important and useful new feature in Parallels Access 2.0 and follow-on versions. The last thing I want to show is I'm actually going to log out of Parallels Access here to show you a new feature. And you see that feature here, and that's that blue sign in with Facebook button. So we had a number of users who said to us, holy cow, I've got a dozen different remote credentials and passwords I have to remember. It's crazy. So we added this sign on with Facebook button, so you can sign on with your Facebook credentials and your Facebook password, and your Parallels Access subscription will be so recorded to that account. So that's great. It makes it life a little bit easier for you. And for those of you who are avid Facebook users or are developers, I can tell you we get the very minimal amount of information out of Facebook that we can do to have this work. We don't copy all sorts of stuff. We can't write to your Facebook page, things like this. We just get enough information so we know who you are, and we double check that the password you put in is the right one, and then we assign your credentials to Parallels Access to that account. So
Kurt, just a quick question. We're not reading their friend list or anything silly like that. We're just really authenticating a password and moving on.
In effect, yes. We're doing the minimal amount that Facebook allows us to do to have this work. And there are lots more things we could have done. We didn't want to do those. We did the minimal amount of things we could do to make this work for users. And we realize, we're users too. We know that having 100 accounts with 100 different passwords is an unmanageable situation for almost everybody.
Right.
So we've changed that. Okay, those are the things I wanted to show in my demo. If there are questions come up, I can be happy to show more. But I want to talk about sort of a non-technical feature that I think people will find interesting. And to do that, I'm going to change what I'm showing on my screen. If I can get that button to work, there we are.
While you're doing that, Kurt, we had a little bit of hammering, but it wasn't too bad. So the construction is doing okay, it sounds like.
I'm happy. Yes, it is doing okay. I'm glad it's not too horrible for people who are listening. Nope. I'm gonna try now to share my slides.
All right.
And there. So I think you're seeing my slides.
Yep.
Okay.
You're back up and ready.
I want to talk about some non-technical things now, not features, but rather how Parallels Access sort of works monetarily. So there's two pieces of software in Parallels Access. The part you put on your mobile device, your tablet or your phone, and the part you put on your remote computers. Those are both free. What you pay for is a subscription that connects those two. And the reason you pay for that as a subscription, because that consumes resources in the cloud that we own, and so as it goes forward in time, those resources still take money each month for us to keep running. So Parallels Access is a subscription-based product. You get a 2-week trial when you sign up for Parallels Access, and then an annual subscription for an ordinary consumer is $20 a year, which gives you access to 5 computers and an unlimited number of tablets or phones. So if you're like Skeeter and you've got 5 iPads, 2 Android tablets, 3 phones, a phone in each pocket, use them all. That's fine. We don't care. And that's just great. And there's also a little, you can see in there's a little deal. If you want to buy a 2-year subscription, we're making a special available for that for the rest of the month. And we've also added more language support. We did have a number of people call us when Parallels Access first came out and said, hey, I'm an IT admin in my company. I got to be able to help my users. And I got to be able to control what's going on, and I want to be able to pay for their subscriptions. So we added what we're calling now Parallels Access for Business. And the way this works, I as an admin might buy, in effect, 50 seats for 50 computers in my company. And I could add people to that account, give them access to certain machines, things like this. And that's how it works. And I as the admin, get the bill each year to pay for that. To help people get started in this approach, what we're going to do between now and the end of July, anybody who signs up for a Parallels Access business account can add an unlimited number of computers, unlimited number of users, an unlimited number of remote computers they can access. So it's like a huge, giant trial for like 6 weeks. So if you've got 100 people in your company and you've got 300 machines, you could add them all. And then try it out, see if you like it. That's great. I think you will. And if you do, then at the end of July, you'll need to now have a subscription that you pay for Parallels Access. And the details there are about costs. It's basically $50 a year for 5 computers, any number of users, any number of mobile devices. And if you have lots and lots of machines, we'd be happy to talk with you about some sort of volume discount, which would include business class support. Because if you're that big of a company, you probably have really urgent business criteria for keeping those machines running and access to them available. And we'll be happy to chat with you about that. So this, again, is in response to user requests for when Parallels Access 1.0 came out last August or September. And we're trying to address the kind of consumer requests for features and the business requests for features in this 2.0 release. We're real pleased with it, and we hope you're excited by it also. And that's basically the things I wanted to talk about. People always ask me, hey, what kind of devices does it run on? What kind of machines does it run on? And so the short version, the details are here on this slide. The short version is we work on iPhone and iPad, iPhone 4S and up, iPad 2 and later, including the Mini. And like most applications on the iPad or the iPhone today, you have to use iOS 7. Now, I found out at the developers conference a few weeks ago that almost 90% of users have moved to iOS 7 today. So that's great. So the number of people who will be blocked by that requirement we think are very, very small. In terms of Android devices, an Android device that's running Android 4.0 or greater would be fine. And that's phones, tablets. We don't really care what form factor you're using. It should just work just fine. Now, remote machines. PCs or Macs. Macs running Lion, Mountain Lion, Mavericks, or Yosemite if you're a developer. No problem. PCs, Windows 7 or Windows 8. Again, this covers the vast bulk of remote computers out there. But I will tell you a little anecdote. I've been at several trade shows showing Parallels Access, and I had a guy come up to me and say, we like this, we're using it, I need another feature. I need to be able to access Windows applications that only run on Windows XP. Wow. Okay, you still have machines running on Windows XP, you got bigger problems than accessing them remotely, but I understand your need. And so we have a solution for that also. And the solution is Parallels Access and Parallels Desktop are separate products. But if you have them both, they integrate really, really well. So here's what I told that user to do. Find or buy a Macintosh. Put Parallels Desktop on that Macintosh. Parallels Desktop has a feature that will enable it to migrate that entire XP machine into a virtual machine running on Parallels Desktop. It's just copying it. So then you'll have all your apps, all your data, everything on a Mac in a virtual machine. When you do that, Parallels Access can get to those XP applications and can run them just fine. So you won't be using that old hardware, which maybe you don't want to use anyway. You want to use that new, shiny Mac hardware, which will be running those same applications the same way you were using them before, and you'll be able to do it from an Android device, from an iPad, from an iPhone, an Android phone, and that's great. And he walked away really happy. This gave him exactly what he wanted to do. He actually wanted to retire that old hardware. And so this gave him a way to do that, and an easy one to maintain, and so on. So that's the story about hardware that's supported. The features that we've showed you today cover the gamut that's available in Parallels Access. Have we shown you every single feature? No, we don't have time for that. But we've shown you the bulk of the new ones and the fundamental ones in the existing 1.0 and 2.0 releases. And if there happen to be questions now, I'm happy to try to address them with Skeeter's help, and we'll go from there.
Hey, Kurt, real quick, thank you for that. Real quick, back to my screen. I wanted to cover 2 points. Can you see my screen right now?
I can.
Okay, great. So one of the things that we've run into, especially with Parallels Access 1.0, and I just wanted to highlight this as one of the new features because we do get a lot of questions on social about this, which is, hey, I've got these computers in my account that I've remotely connected to, but you know what? Over here on this iMac, I'm no longer using that iMac, and how do I get rid of it? Well, just quickly, if it's offline, what I can do is there'll be a little trash can next to it, and if I want to get rid of this so I don't see this in my computer list, I can click on the trash can and then confirm the delete, and that will actually, once it refreshes, will actually remove that that Mac from my computer. There it goes. The other thing that I wanted to point out, it's probably because I'm on the Hangout. The other thing I wanted to point out is that I believe, and correct me, Kurt, if I'm wrong on this, but through the end of June, you guys are offering a special promo for 2 years. Instead of getting it for $19, they can get for 1 year. They can get 2 years for $29.99. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So that's a pretty great price discount at 33% through the end of really the end of this month to lock in remote access on up to 5 mobile devices. So I just wanted to highlight that briefly for those that are wondering, what would this cost and how does it work, kind of thing.
And if you go back to that screen for just a second, Skeeter, I'll point out one more thing.
Give me 1 second. There you go. Okay, I'm back to it.
Now I see it. So notice how it says under the word 2 year in the blue box, most popular.
Yep.
You might think that's just a marketing sort of buzzword, but it's actually true. I see the data about subscriptions that are being purchased on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis, and without a doubt, the 2 year subscriptions are actually the most popular ones because people say, I want access to these devices, to these applications. I like the way Parallels Access gives me that unified user interface. In my case, the iPad on top of the Mac or Windows application, and so I buy a 2 year subscription to not have to worry about it anymore. And that is actually true that it's the most popular subscription purchasable for Parallels Access.
That makes sense, Kurt. For basically $30, you got 5 computers for 2 years. To me, that's really a no-brainer. I guess the other point to point out here is they can get the subscription either through the Parallels Access portal, or they can buy it through, at least on the iOS, they can buy it right through the iTunes store. Is that correct? That
is correct. Both places work. It's the same subscription. A Parallels Access subscription is hardware agnostic. So even if you're an iPad user and you buy a 1 year subscription to Parallels Access, and the next day you buy an Android tablet, that subscription still works. So it's kind of ironic that you can buy something from the iTunes store to connect your Android tablet to your Windows device. It's kind of funny.
Yep. All right. Well, Kurt, I haven't gotten any questions that have come in, so I think it probably makes sense to call this a wrap. I want to thank you again for your time this afternoon. And by all means, for those of you that possibly watch this, it will be available on the Parallels TV YouTube channel. You'll also find it on the Google Plus Parallels page as well. By all means, if you have follow-up questions after you see this video, please ask them, and both Kurt and I will endeavor to respond back and give you any questions that you have. And we want to thank you for watching. Kurt, any closing statements here?
No, that's all. Thank you, Skeeter, and I appreciate especially the movie you made for the Android. We're looking forward to finding some technology that allows us to do live demos over Google Plus Hangouts in our Android devices. We don't have them yet, but if we do, we'll include that the next time we give a demo.
Great. Okay, folks, everybody, have a good day. Bye, Kurt.
Bye, Skeeter.